This is Dharma Drops with your host, Rebecca Warfield. This podcast is a little bit about yoga, a little bit about life, and a little bit about whatever. And just as a warning, this podcast is unscripted, so that means I might regret a few things that I say. But hey, maybe I'll say some pretty awesome stuff too. Remember, these are musings, not truths. Buckle up, giddy up, because here we go. Hey, what's up?
I'm so excited for our crossover podcast.
We are crossing over. Who the hell are you?
Me?
You.
Katie McCormick. I'm like, wait, me?
No, the other person over here.
I'm Katie McCormick, and I'm the host of Just One More Chapter podcast. And I launched in September of 2019. And I have to say, Becky's a big reason that I launched this podcast, because I sat and listened to her podcast like all last winter and was like, wait a minute, now I want to do it.
Oh, thanks. It's always weird to hear people say, so many people have mentioned to me like, oh, listening to your podcast, Dharma Drops, which, by the way, guys, my name is Rebecca Warfield. They call me Becky. I have a podcast called Dharma Drops, which, mind you, this Saturday, which you'll probably be hearing this in the future, but this Saturday is the 1-year anniversary of Dharma Drops.
It's so exciting.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
Thanks. But when people say like, oh my gosh, you inspired me to start a podcast, I'm like, me? I'm pretty sure I just sit there and like run my mouth, and half the time I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
I know. Same. Or like when I look at my stats and I see that I have like listeners in like Kuwait or Australia, I'm like, how the heck did they hear about me? Like,
I don't know. It's really weird.
It's funny.
Yeah. So we're both here in Wilmington, North Carolina, hosting podcasts, which is really exciting. Yes.
So Becky asked if I want to do a crossover, and I just thought it was so fun because, like, who hasn't seen one on TV? So like, this is us, it's our version of like Station 19 and Grey's Anatomy, but the podcast version.
Yeah, you're right. Do you watch Grey's Anatomy?
I do. I'm like one of the last people that watches it, I think, but I still love it.
I have not seen Grey's Anatomy in so long, but I actually teach English at UNC Wilmington. For those of you who don't know me from Katie's podcast, but the Dharma Drops people probably like, I know you've told me 1,000 times. But in any case, I teach English classes for nursing majors, and it's solely for students of the nursing program. So when we are looking at rhetorical devices in literary texts, I actually assign Grey's Anatomy to show that these literary devices aren't just in books, they're also in the things that we watch on TV and the things that we listen to, Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us more about your podcast.
My podcast? God, I don't even know. So Dharma Drops podcast, I like to call it a yoga-ish lifestyle podcast. We talk about things that are related to what I usually say yoga, life, and whatever, because we encompass a pretty big range of topics, but they're almost always grounded in some sort of like holistic, intentional, authentic living lifestyle. So there's yoga stuff. The most recent episode's about menstruation and women's health. There's episodes about decluttering, all those things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you've had some really like famous yogis on the show as well.
Thank you. I have had a number of high profile yoga teachers, and I have a couple more in the works. So I do know that Bill Mahoney, for those of you who don't know anything about yoga, you're probably like Bill Mahoney, but the yogis in the yoga world are probably like, oh, Bill Mahoney, I know him and I love him. Bill Mahoney will be coming on. We had Andy Carpenter, Halakori. So we're just doing the thing.
Yeah. And my podcast is basically a book club podcast.
And you've had some pretty high profile people too.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like, I always say, it's like the wildest ride that I never imagined I would ever get on, quite frankly, but I'm having so much fun. It's just like completely different like creativity for me than like what I do for my day job, which is running an ad agency. But Just One More Chapter podcast is a book club podcast, and it's for everyone, whether you're a book nerd or you only read at the airport. And I'm really trying to have like authors of all different styles and genres on the podcast. And, it's a little bit different than anything else that's out there. So,
yeah.
But
I think that's sort of where, although your podcast is about books and mine's about yoga, I do think they're both really different in their particular genres. Like I have one of very few explicit content podcasts. I'm going to try and behave myself today because I don't know what your audience is like. My audience is used to my shenanigans and my F-bombs and all this and all that, but I think that, that's what makes this fun and it's enjoyable to sort of break out of the mold a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and I think people just love that we're so real, quite frankly.
Awesome. It's real. It's tired. I don't know. It's a surrender to life. I don't know.
Do you want to start by talking about our love for yoga and books, or our dog kids?
I want to talk about my dog first, because
same.
I love my dog more than yoga and books. I'm not going to lie. I really do. So I have a French bulldog named Hank. His official name is Hank Meatball Warfield Fleischman III of Wilmington.
I had no idea of that.
Look, I didn't make this up. That's just how he came into the universe. But he's basically the love of my life. And he is the sweetest, stinkiest little thing.
Stinky.
French bulldogs stank.
I had no idea.
All bully breeds are a little bit stanky, and we're not in the cute like, oh, you've been outside. We're talking like, oh, your ass smells. Like, yeah.
I did not.
They are stank, girl.
Meanwhile, we're sitting in my house and we're staring at Izzy Apple, who's my 6-year-old black lab, and she is also the love of my life. And I feel like she chose me, like all those years ago. I always say, like, she chose me, I didn't choose her. And she loves to take her mom for a dog walk every few days. So that's our thing. But yeah, I'm with you. I love my dog more than most humans and much of anything else.
Now, I had a black lab, and they require a tremendous amount of exercise and activity. Frenchies are not known for their athletic capabilities or disposition. Yes. So basically, Hank sits on the couch all day and snores all day. And the sweet little things with the little smushy faces, they can't be in temperatures over 75 for very long because they can't release heat. Yeah. So basically, he just relaxes all day and just enjoys his little life.
To come back as a dog, I really want to do that.
I just recently said, I want to come back as a well-loved, well-bred Frenchie.
Yeah. I walk by, like, as I'm working in the house, I'm like, she's napping and she's snoring audibly. And I'm like, seriously?
Do you let your dog sleep in your bed?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Me too. Because I was at a holiday party and I was completely outnumbered by people who thought that I was just disgusting for letting my dog sleep in my bed. And finally, I just had to ask someone. I was like, well, you don't let your dog in the bed. You don't let your dog on the couch. I have to ask, do you even love your dogs?
Right. I know. I can totally relate. Yes. No, she sleeps in the bed. There's times when I wish I didn't let her, like when she comes in at 2:30 in the morning and I'm like, seriously, are you kidding me? But I mean, you know what? I just love, like, it's oftentimes she'll be in there while I fall asleep, and then she leaves and she goes to her own room, which is across
she's her own room. She has bunk beds.
Yeah. No. She has her own double bed. No, it's not meant to be. It's meant to be the guest bedroom.
Well, little Hanky, he only clears the ground by 2 inches,
right?
Because he's too short, and he can't get up and down the bed by himself. But every night when he wants to get down, he comes. I started this. I thought it'd be cute one time to, like, put my hair in his face, let him bite the bun on the top of my head. And so now it's turned this thing. So at 3:00 in the morning, he wants down and he comes up and he bites my hair. I'm like, no, I know. And then so either Aaron, it's never me because I can't get out of bed. I'm too tired. Usually Aaron has to, like, get the dog, put him on the floor, and then go back to sleep. And then an hour later, Hank is like crying because he wants back on the bed. Yeah.
You need to get him doggy stairs.
We tried. He would not use them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay.
He's an Il Divo.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about some yoga and intentional living books.
Yes.
And we each picked one. So I picked Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, which literally changed my life.
Yes.
And you picked?
I picked almost the wrong book. I was like, what did I pick? You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero.
It's a mouthful. It is.
Well, and I listened.
It's so good.
It's super good. And I'm listening to like 10 books at one time. And suddenly I was like, wait, what book did I pick? Which one have I been listening to? Because I'm listening to like 10.
Somebody just asked on like Facebook, like, do you listen to like multiple books? Or are you reading multiple books a year, like at a time? And I was like, always. Like,
yeah, me too.
Like I always have like a real book, and then I'm always listening to at least 2, if not 3.
I have really, it's terrible to say this out loud. I have a master's degree in English literature. You'd think I'd have my nose in a book all the time. I don't. I have headphones and I listen all the time because I find it really hard to carve out the time and the space to sit down and read a book, which I know is terrible. And everyone listening to your podcast is probably like, who is this person? But girl, I'm busy.
No, for me, what I love about like a real book versus an audio book is it kind of shuts down my brain and calms me down. And and I read a lot like before bed so that I sleep better.
Yeah.
But there's a time and a place for audio. And I've said before, like there are some books that I would not be able to read the regular book, but can totally do an audiobook.
Now, I don't listen to fiction at all. If I am in the mood for fiction, I will hold the physical book. Okay. You know, I like things, especially in the winter months. I like really crappy little mysteries, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah. And I don't want to listen to those. Those I do read in bed, but all my other books, my yoga books, all my self-help books, all that stuff, you know, my nonfiction, I listen.
Well, self-help books sometimes are like easier to listen to, I find too, because they go at a faster pace. And I can listen to some of them at like 1.25 or 1.5.
I've never done that.
There's only certain like narrators that I can do it with, but I do love it.
That's interesting. I should try.
Yeah.
It just feels like too frenetic or something.
I have to be careful. Like Jen did not talk fast, so I could do hers at like 1.25, but 1.5 was way too much for her. I was like, I can't pay attention.
No one could ever speed up my podcast. I talk very fast.
I know, right? So what I love about this book is that she uses the word badass in the title. I mean, like that word to me is just so like, it sets the stage, right? Like differently.
Yes.
What did you love the most about this book?
Well, I think that what was the most important to me about this book was sort of my own relationship with money, in particular in the yoga and wellness industry, which is where I predominantly work, and education. Right. Because like my main gig for many years was teaching college level English, and I was full time. And then I switched to part time, and now I'm running my own business, teaching yoga, doing all these things. But in both the holistic world and in education, the thing I hear all the time, oh, well, you don't make a lot of money, but you do it because you love it.
I want to make money.
Right. Yes, I do love it, but I also want to make money. And money has become, especially in the yoga industry, in the holistic wellness industry, money is such a sensitive topic because I have to say, in the yoga communities, there's this practice of not wanting things, right? And not wanting too much, not being attached, you know, this practice of we call non-hoarding, whatever, which is cool to an extent, but that also places a lot of guilt, I think, on people in these industries. Like, oh, well, shoot, I'm a yoga teacher. That means I can't ask for money and I can't make money and I can't have things. So long story short, that's actually was like the most important takeaway from You Are a Badass at Making Money, is that if you are living out your life's purpose, you're gonna have to make money.
Yeah. No, there were so many takeaways for me in this book. Because at its core, it's about manifesting and it's about energy. But I also feel like, given that it's such a taboo topic, she made it so lighthearted and fun. And I mean, it was funny. I was like listening to it when I like would be working out or like walking the dog, and I would have to stop and like write notes because I was like, oh my gosh, it's like so powerful. And they're not new ideas, but it's just the way she teed them up that I felt like I'd never heard them that way.
Well, she takes a lot of the guilt out of it, you know, because that's really at the beginning of the book, she talks so much about that. Like, we have to get these subconscious beliefs out of the way. And I will be honest, the first chapter, I was like, I don't know about this book because it was talking about like the fear of making money and not liking money. And I was like, I'm not afraid of making money. I don't dislike money. I love money.
It made me a little nervous, that first chapter.
But I didn't resonate with that. But then she started talking about the subconscious beliefs. And I was like, oh, this is the issue, right? I'm not afraid of making money. I'm not afraid of having money. But subconsciously, I often think I'm not good enough to ask for money and to make that money.
Well, and she talks about it quite a bit, like throughout the book, where like you have to be a little bit terrified. And I don't know if you experienced that ever, but like, you know, when I manifest that I want to make a certain number like for the year, or manifest anything, honestly, like there's always a little bit of me that's like scared or terrified. But she was saying like that's what you need to live the life you want.
And that was actually a big takeaway for me too, because I always say things like, oh, I got to make more money. I have to figure out how to make more money. I have to make more money, but that's not clear. And so there's this part in the book where she says, figure out how much money you want to make per week. and then double it, because then you have this number. It's not necessarily that you're going to meet the goal like 100% of the time, all the time, but then suddenly you stop underselling yourself because you're like, oh shit, I said I was going to make $4,000 a week, you know? And so that means I can't sell this product or good for $500. If I'm going to meet my goal, I got to up the price, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought that was good.
Yeah. So have you set like weekly goals for yourself then? I haven't gone that far. I've done some different things like as a result of listening it, but I have not done weekly.
I have, but I just did it the other day because I actually, to be honest, for full disclosure, I haven't finished listening to the book yet because I'm getting through it so slowly because first of all, listening and reading are not linear practices.
Yes.
We have to go back and re-listen and stuff. So it's kind of been a slow process.
Yeah.
But I just listened to that part, I don't know, just a few days ago. So, but it did help set forth some action. So what I've been doing is all my offerings, I've been using that number to figure out like how many people would need to be in this, you know, event, how many things of this would I need to sell to reach that amount. Whereas before I was just like, well, I'll take what I can get. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so I've been manifesting money since I started my ad agency. And have 3 of the 4 years have hit the number I've wanted. But I set like a goal this year that was like a level I've never hit. And quite frankly, I've been scared to death of even like putting it out there. But what I loved about it is she was like, okay, so think about how much money you want to make. And then she said, break it down on a weekly basis. I'm going to let the universe determine when that happens. I'm not worried about like timing. If it happens like each month I make X number or percent, but more about like, that's the number I want to make for the year. But she was like, okay, and then think about what you would do with that money and like tangibly, like, you know, things of that nature. And I was like, it's good. Like when you use all your senses for manifesting, it just puts you in a different ballpark, right?
Yeah. And I
manifest a lot, right?
I try.
I mean, our friends always say, Becky manifested the cold weather. And I say, gosh darn it.
Look, if all I could do in this world was manifest cooler, less humid weather with less pollen in Wilmington, North Carolina, I'd be all over that. Yeah. But I think that's a really important part too, is that she mentions is, and I think about this again from the perspective of someone that's sort of in this holistic service where everyone's like, oh, well, you know, you're a yoga teacher, you can't be greedy. But the big question is, what would you do with that money, right? If I made $10 million a year, would I take some from my own salary? Sure. But would I also put out more offerings and give more platforms for more women to talk about their industries and their businesses? You better believe it.
Well, and give back, right?
Right. Like that's what it is.
Second things I would do. Yeah.
Right. And I think in the very beginning of the book, she says, like, if your path to greatness requires money, then you have to make money.
Yeah.
And whose path to greatness doesn't require money, at least in this world, in this culture, in the United States of America in 2020.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also about just getting, like you and I talk about this quite a bit, like just getting creative with, you know, I think you can easily think about like in a podcast, oh, you're going to have like commercial pods, but then thinking about like other ways and streams of money that you can bring in. And that's where I can talk like myself. I need to talk myself off the ledge sometimes of like, okay, can I really do that? Can I really sell that? And then when I put it out there in the universe, it's like people jump in so quickly, I find.
Yeah. And I think too, actually, a quote that Marie at Long Wave Yoga, hey, Marie, what up? She said in her class last night, she was mentioning about, you know, the things that we want in life don't come from waiting and they don't come from inspiration. They come from doing. Inspiration comes from doing, right? Yeah. And I think Sincero's book sort of underscores that, like, just do stuff. If you want to be a badass at making money, you got to be a badass, and badasses don't sit around. Yeah. They don't.
No. And, you know, it's the dreamer versus doer. Yeah. Totally. So did you get to the chapter where she talks about how Jim Carrey wrote himself a check years before?
Yes.
So that was like crazy to me. And like, who doesn't know Jim Carrey? Like, hello, but wasn't it like an obscene amount, like $10 million? And so in the book, for those that haven't read it yet, she says that Jim Carrey, I think, was on Oprah and was talking about how he'd written himself a check like a decade before he even thought he could ever make that much. Like these were the days when he was like living in his car. And
which I did not know that about him.
Same. And his like whole family was in living.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
But
so he wrote himself a check for like $10 million and he put a specific date on it and like put it in the universe and then just kind of went about everything. And he was getting turned down by the who's who in Hollywood. And then Dumb and Dumber came out and it paid
Best
him
movie ever.
$10 million. And it was literally like the date that he'd put on that check. And I was like, okay, I've heard about this stuff, but now I need to do it.
Yeah. And that's another important part of the book that sort of stuck with me is that to manifest, you have to get clear and which for me is actually the hardest part. You know, one of the things I always struggle with is I have a lot of soft skills and a lot of interests that aren't these like, this is what I'm doing. This is how much money I'm going to make. It's a lot of like, oh, I can do all these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like she was saying, the universe doesn't operate on ambiguity, right? It operates on clarity. And so you have to get really clear with what you want. And whether or not it's the universe, she talks about like divine intelligence, whether or not you believe that, that's up to you. But I think that clarity gives us the ability to set those goals and to start really taking hard action. It goes right back to the weekly amount that you want to make. If you're like, I just want to make money. Well, cool. What does that really look like? But, I want to make $4,000 a week. Okay. Now you know what that looks like, what that's going to take.
Yeah. And she talks about like both uncertainty and ambiguity and how like, you know, you can say you want to make it through these 10 things and you'll make X amount, but then you also have to be open to that the universe might deliver something. And this has happened to me, quite frankly, several times where it's like far better than you could ever imagine. And you're like, if I had tried to manifest that, I wouldn't have been able to. Like, there's no way, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what gets me is like the uncertainty is hard for me, like of not knowing, but I've kind of trained myself just like a muscle with manifesting of it's okay. The universe is going to deliver far better than I could ever imagine. And I also find that like, years ago when I started the ad agency, I set goals like and put things out in the universe. And it might not have happened on my timeline, but I see some of those things happening now, like 4 years later. Do you ever find that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And sometimes I'll forget about them.
Same.
You know, and then this thing happens. I'm like, oh, I forgot all about that. I really wanted to do that once upon a time. Yeah.
Oh my God, Becky, where did you get those bracelets? They are so cute.
They make me look like a yogi, and I got them from you at spiritualjunkies.com. Duh. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but the Dharma Drops Smile bracelet, it's my favorite.
You can go to spiritualjunkies.com, and in the new year, there are so many different handmade bracelets, all genuine gemstones, and they help you hold your intentions.
And that's the thing I love so much about Spiritual Junkies. Mala bracelets, they're handmade, they're authentic, and I get to take my intention with me everywhere I go. So, Deanie, can you tell us where we can find all of your malas this year?
spiritualjunkies.com, and there's a promo code for Dharma Drops. It's code DharmaFriend for 15% off.
Awesome. So guys, you can head over to spiritualjunkies.com and save 15% on a single order with the promo code DharmaFriend. That's spiritualjunkies.com, spiritualjunkies.com with the promo code DharmaFriend, DharmaFriend. Have you been moved by the profound depth of yogic teachings and want to grow your understanding? Do you want to establish a strong foundation of knowledge and find your own unique expression as an instructor? If your answer is yes, then consider joining the Yogic Studies programs at Longwave Yoga in Wilmington, North Carolina. Longwave Yoga offers a 200-hour training starting March 6th through August 16th, 2020. This program encourages you to embrace your calling and find a path of study that works for you. Whether it's the Yoga Alliance accredited teacher training path, the practitioner's path, or the teacher tune-up, Longwave Yoga has a path that meets your goals. Do you desire to further develop precision, purpose, knowledge, and confidence in teaching and practicing yoga? Then consider joining the Longwave Yoga 300-hour advanced teacher training program. This program has enrollment all year long. Learn more at longwaveyoga.com. That's LONGWAVEYOGA.com. longwaveyoga.com.
So now let's talk about like getting specific. How do you manifest? Like, do you sit and do that while you're meditating? Do you do that while you're walking or running, or like, what does that look like for you?
Well, for me, I don't know if I have a specific way of talking about how I manifest things, but I can tell you how I get mindful about things first. And that is most definitely through my yoga practice.
Okay.
Nothing in the world makes sense without my yoga practice. That point of focus, the clarity that's provided to me or given to me through the asana practice is really what gets me sort of stable and clear. But I would also add to that and I always talk about this. People are probably tired of hearing me say this in my business.
Are just now hearing this.
Yeah, I know. But my people are like, I know. But also, I do believe that the secret to manifestation is work. I do. I really do. And so basically what I do every day is I sit down and I do whatever needs to be done.
Okay.
And then things start to happen, right? Because, or what will happen is I'll do things and they won't work. I'm like, okay, time to reroute.
Yeah.
So trying to be clear, grounded, and receptive.
Yeah.
To clear enough and receptive enough to really listen and to not fight things when it's not worth fighting.
Yeah.
And when to go with the flow when it's easy to go with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. Like I came to yoga and it just has provided like clarity and focus that I could never imagine. But then I'm a big runner. And so for me, like the repetition of the steps, I'll just manifest things like when I'm running and just say things over and over again. And then, the powerful endorphins and you're like, fuck yeah, this is
awesome. Sometimes things like download to me in the yoga practice. The unfortunate thing is then I sometimes forget them, right? Because I'm like, what was that really amazing thing I thought of in yoga today? And after Shavasana, I'm like, I'm just tired. Like my next step is just to get to the car, without falling down the stairs, but things do sort of download sometimes and ideas will come to me.
Yeah.
The other time where things sort of arrive or download is in my sleep.
Really?
Oh yeah. Girl, I wrote my whole master's thesis in my sleep.
No.
All my ideas.
But you remember the ideas later?
The verbatim. And even like, just here's a really small example. So I've been rebranding my website.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to figure out like the best way to add my Instagram block onto every single page. And for whatever reason, it just wasn't clicking with how to do it. And then in the middle of the night, I woke up and I was like, duh, you have to embed the block in the footer, and it just came to me, in my sleep,
Yeah. They don't come to me in my sleep. They come to me when I shower.
That's a good time. That's a creative time with the water.
Yeah. When I walk the dog or run, and then in the spring and summer gardening. Something about my fingers in the dirt and like just being out there and sweating.
Girl, because you're connecting with that earth.
Yeah. But it is pretty powerful. Like I loved how in the book though, she talked about mantras, like, and I live and breathe mantras. Quite frankly, I have like so many of them. It's amazing.
Yeah. What do you have a particular mantra that you use the most?
I'm a big believer in manifest that shit, which I totally.
Oh, that's a good manifest that shit, girl.
Yeah. And I totally stole that one from Lululemon years ago, but it was like one of those that just like spoke to my heart. And then like, this year I have like a word that I've picked for the year, which is abundance. And so I have kind of like abundance is the overarching umbrella. And then I have like sub tiers for different categories of my life and different things that I'll say relative to like different categories.
My mantra for years has simply just been let go.
Oh, that's a good one.
Just let go. When things aren't working, let it go. When they are working, let it go. Because they're not going to work forever, right? Nothing in the world is permanent, so just let it go. It doesn't mean you have to like not try hard and not do things and not want things, but just don't get attached to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine for decades was be where your feet are, like physically, which obviously I only learned through yoga. But yeah, the other thing that she talks about is that like, when you make this decision that you want to make however much money it is and how you want to do it and what that looks like and what that will change in your life, that you should become a little obsessed about it. And I had never heard that before. Like I've listened to other books, similar topics like The Secret and other things, but I'd never heard the obsession. And I feel like as a type A, I definitely can see myself becoming obsessed with things, but I didn't think of that as a positive always. So I thought that was...
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm a little bit torn about that. My mantra is let go, right? I'm a yogi. And so I'm like constantly trying to practice this concept of non-attachment, like wanting things, but then when it doesn't work out, not like having a total meltdown, but I do believe this goes back to the work, right? If you want something, you're going to work your ass off to get it. And that can become like an obsession.
No, yeah, totally.
Maybe obsession just isn't the right word that speaks. Maybe like in the yoga practice, we talk about a drishti, right? It's a focal point.
Yeah. That's better. Yeah.
And so maybe for me, if I thought about it, like this is my focal point.
Yeah.
And if the focal point changes, I need to be prepared to figure out how to navigate that without losing my mind.
Yeah. No, that's a good perspective on it. Obsession is probably not the most positive word that we want to align with there, but I agree. Just is a good one.
And then maybe to other people that speaks to them well, because they don't think about, maybe they're not even practicing that focal point yet. They're just sitting there like wishing and wanting and waiting, so obsession to them might feel like a lower degree than it does to someone like you and me,
Yeah. And then she gets real specific on how to make this happen. And have you gotten to that part of the book yet? It's towards the end.
Ooh, I don't know. Tell me.
Okay.
I can't remember.
So meditation's a big part of it.
Oh, yeah, she talks about meditation a lot.
Which, I mean, I don't know. I think of meditation and manifesting and like, they can be one and the same. They can also be very different things, right?
The way I learned meditation is it's just to teach you, first of all, I want to clarify really quickly that when we sit down and focus on a mantra or focus on our breath, that's concentration. Oh. Meditation is the result of concentration. So just for clarity out there, so like people want to know, but the concentration aspect teaches us the patterns of the mind. Right. Okay. And so it teaches us like, God, every 2 seconds, I'm thinking about my to-do list. Every 2 seconds, I'm thinking about this. Every 2 seconds, I just don't even know what I'm thinking about anymore.
Squirrels.
Right. Chasing
my life.
Yeah, girl, I understand, And so I think the manifestation part probably comes from learning yourself better. Oh, that's what I think.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. She also talks about being kind to yourself and I think that, particularly as an entrepreneur, it's so easy to get like down on yourself or be like, why isn't that happening in the time frame I wanted
that to? That was me this morning.
Right? Yeah.
It's just meltdown mode.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was working on something on the agency side for a client and accidentally deleted something. And there was no like putting it back. I even called Google and I was like, fuck, I can't believe I have to do this over again.
I did that the other day it wasn't anything that big, but I was just so annoyed and I do it all over again.
Yeah. It turned out that it's probably going to be better the second time, but I was like, are you kidding me? And then she talks about patience, which I mean, totally type A. Patience is challenging for me. Like I want things, and people have said it to me, like whether it's friends or coworkers or clients, they're like, you move, Katie, at a pace that like most others don't.
People say that to me all the time. People say to me all the time. And just to put it out there for everyone listening, it does get on my nerves when you say, how do you do so much? It's like you're doing too much. Mind your own business.
Yeah, no, same. I know. Or even like when employees or like clients are like, gosh, like you just like have so much going on. And I'm like, but it's how I function.
Yeah. And also you don't know the inner workings of what's going on. It might look like I'm doing 1,000 things, but they overlap so much that I'm basically doing the same thing all day long.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else? And then the other thing, I mean, this is all about money. But like all of this applies in every area of your life. And that was one of the things that really, as I sat back after I finished it, I was like, okay, like she's specifically talking about money here, but the same practices apply for every other area in your life. Like, do you want more like work-life balance? Are you looking for love? Like whatever it is,
I was just telling a friend yesterday, I said, I've been listening to this book. You're a badass at making money, but I think that you could change the word money to anything you want. You are a badass at whatever, walking your dog. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah. And clearly both of us have been stalking, is that the right word, Jen, to try to get her on our podcast?
Well, I'm about to like blow up your email. I sent one friendly email, Jen. Now I'm going to have to send like a begging email.
I mean, Jen, if you're listening, you've got two of the hottest podcasts out there wanting you on their shows. And we'll even do a collaboration one for the next that one.
Right? Yeah, we should.
What else though? She talks about faith and gratitude too.
She does talk a lot. And she talks about gratitude, I think, in almost every chapter. And that's something I've been working with in my life and through my business too. Like in November, I offered that gratitude journaling event and stuff, that I know that the book is about money, but often we get so wrapped up in the things we don't have. Mm-hmm. Gratitude gives us a little reality check about what we do have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, but before I forget this, Dharma Drops isn't just a podcast. It's a lifestyle brand.
It
really.
is. Thank you.
And so like, that's like, something I want to make sure people understand, but gratitude, like relative to business and just in life in general. Like if I'm ever having a moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, like whatever. And I stop and just do gratitude steps or, think about what I'm grateful for. It's amazing how like all the positive things come back from the universe so quickly. Mm-hmm. And it is really powerful because, if you're like, okay, I'm thankful for XYZ, then it's amazing. I'll end up with like 3 emails of like, hey, we want to work with you and this, and this.
And it shows you, I think it sort of opens the pathway to more opportunity or new ways of thinking about things. A lot of the things she said were just reminders that we can want and want and want, right, but when we recognize the things we have in our life and the things that we don't have, but the ways in which we can achieve them without without being bitter or angry about it, we can do a lot of things. And it can be small things too. Like even her book, I have some new events coming up and I was thinking like, damn, if I'm going to meet this weekly goal, how can I get more people to know about this? I was like, oh, I can post things on the community calendar, something that I hadn't done before. I don't know why. I never even thought about it, you know? And so that's an opportunity for me just to open the avenues more.
Yeah. Well, and you and I are really lucky because we have a lot of common friends and, our tribe is just so fierce. And like, I can see every time like something is going well for me or for you, how like everyone puts their arms around each other and like walks together, but then we all elevate. And she talks a lot about that. And that to me has been like probably one of my greatest life lessons ever, where like when you surround yourself with the right people, how like you all just elevate and, you know, and we open our eyes to what we can do. And y'all, you know, yogis talk about this a lot, but it took me a long time to like recognize that saying of like, everything is already within you and understand what that meant for me. But it's so dang true. Cause like if we all just open up our eyes and are like open to the possibilities, like you just never know what might come, right?
Yeah. But then at the same time, I mean, I'm only speaking about teaching yoga in a small town. There's also this fear of scarcity, right? Like the yoga teachers are like, oh my God, I have to get more people in my classes. There's this many people in this person's classes and I need to get more of this, you know what I mean? And this person's doing this workshop. Now I need to do the same one, you know, all this stuff. And I think a lot of the lessons from You Are a Badass at Making Money is a reminder that there's enough to go around for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I think we all can fall into this like with social of just the comparison. And like, I do that sometimes where I'll like go down the rabbit hole of like, what are other podcasters doing in my space? And I'm like, stop girl, don't do that. Don't look.
I don't listen to any other yoga podcasts at all. Not because I don't want to. I don't want to feel like, oh shoot, should I be doing that?
Yeah.
I don't.
No. It's interesting because when I had like Stuart Woods and Dean Koontz on the show.
I said you had some big people on there.
I did. Not to name drop, but I did. But one of the questions I often ask like big authors is like, you know, what books and authors inspire you? And both of them said they cannot read anything in their genre.
Yeah.
Because it gives them like, it kind of like plants a seed that they don't want there. And I was like, I kind of get that on this side of it with the podcast.
Yeah. In the same sort of vein, though, I guess going back to this idea of like, if there's enough to go around, I had an episode recently with Liana Bellinet. She operates the Prana Salt Cave here.
Yes, I've been meaning to go there.
It's really cool. You should go. But she had quite the poignant quote on her episode that she said, if we believe in abundance, then we have to believe there's enough for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and that was like a hard one when I read The Secret for me to wrap my head around, but it's so true. And just getting creative. And that's where, you know, and I think you're much more comfortable with the uncertainty. Sometimes like I can get a little overwhelmed by that. But again, if you just kind of hold true that like, you don't know how it's going to come back at you.
It's interesting. People, you're not the first person to say that to me about like my personality and uncertainty. I've had a lot of people say like, I just like how you're able to like, just dive into the uncertainty. I'm like, well, I'm glad that's what it looks like from the outside. I'm going to put on a good front here because basically I'm like melting down every day.
Yeah, no, I know. My friends are like, your tenacity is like amazing. And you're so just like, and I'm like, do you see what's going on inside though? No, you're right.
Like this is a little off topic, but a couple years ago I led a study abroad for UNCW. It was a yoga study abroad.
Where'd you go?
Costa Rica. I took college is not what it used to be. I took 14 college students to Costa Rica so they could get 2 credits to do yoga. Yeah, college has changed. But in any case,
that was not an option when I was in school.
Me either, okay?
Hello.
So 3 days before I was about to meet 14 college students in Costa Rica, I got an email from the retreat center we were staying at saying that there was a major storm. Their entire town is closed. You cannot get to the retreat center. And they were sorry, we cannot host your retreat or your study abroad. So it was a Friday.
Oh, shit.
So I had to wait all weekend. I had Monday to plan a trip for these 14
students. And you're leaving
students.
What day of that week?
Tuesday.
Oh my.
It was a nightmare.
Talk about the stress level.
But getting to the point of this, when it was all said and done, all these people at the university were like, you handled that so well. They were like, you were so calm. I was like, you were not there when I was like sobbing on my couch, and you were not there when I was like crying and like throwing things.
Yes,
like,
you've been there, done that. Yeah,
I just put on a really good face here.
Yes, agree. Yes, no, I was on a call earlier with like one of the big publishers in New York, and they were like, you're doing so awesome. And I was like, yeah, you haven't seen when I was like not sleeping and crying all the time.
Yeah.
Which totally happens when you launch any business.
Yeah.
Like there's no way around it. Right? I mean, did you like lose sleep when you like launched this? Because like all the ideas and like the learning so much new stuff to me.
And they come to me in my sleep.
Oh, yeah,
it's a major problem.
I have my own sleep issues. I couldn't imagine if the ideas came to me in my sleep.
I don't know what I do all day, but during my sleep, I work.
All come.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
This is stupid.
You just need to figure out a way to like transcribe those to a computer so you like can peacefully sleep the whole
They're
time.
usually so vivid, I remember them.
It's so amazing though. So we talked about Year of Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you think?
Okay, so I have to be honest.
Back step one.
Okay.
What would you give the rating for Badass Making Money?
5.
Same. Yeah.
5.
And did you listen to audio?
Excuse me. Yes, I did.
And she was phenomenal.
I like when the author reads the book.
I did too. So I would definitely suggest audio in this version.
Me
because
too.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Year of Yes.
Okay, so I have to be honest, at a certain point, like many books in the self-help women's sort of genre, I stopped listening at a certain point because I felt like I no longer could relate. She talked a lot about motherhood.
Yes.
And I just like, it wasn't translating for me. But the first half of the book, this happened to me too with Girl Wash Your Face.
Yes,
the first half, I was like, oh my God, my mind is blown. This is amazing. And then as things started to go, I was like, I can relate less and less and less. But I really like the concept, the Year of Yes, for sure.
Well, and I love how it came to be, like with that, it was like she was at Thanksgiving with her family and her sister was like, you say no to everything. And I can totally see that conversation going down with like some of my best friends in the world. And I was like, oh, and then this like all happens. And then I just loved that like how some of the first things happened. So do you remember like how she got asked to speak at, I guess, her alma mater and then being on the Jimmy Kimmel
that's
show?
Actually the most memorable part for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, let me ask you, are you a yes or a no person?
I start from a place of yes.
I often start from a place of no.
Oh.
It's just my default.
Okay.
This year, I'm actually working on trying to say yes to things. You would think that I say yes to things a lot because I do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm usually like, I don't want to do that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can get myself in trouble because I normally start from a place of yes, of then kind of backpedaling like, oh, I don't want to do this. But I trust my gut. Like my gut's pretty like, I should always trust my gut because it always, steers me in the right direction.
I guess I should clarify. I say yes to a lot of things when it comes to like yoga. I'm a dancer too, and so like dance stuff. Dance is actually where I say yes too much. Then I'm like, why did I say yes to performing in these 3 things? But
you love it.
I do love it. But like 5 or 6 years ago, I did 13 shows in 1 year. It was so stupid. Like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
But in my like social life and stuff, I often come from a place of no. I'm like, nah, I'm going to stay home.
Yeah, but I'm a homebody, so I can relate to that piece of it. I'm like, staying at home, watching a movie, cooking yummy dinner.
But I think one of the important things that she clarifies, though, is that by saying no, sometimes you're saying yes, right? And so by saying no to social things and staying home and cooking dinner, I'm often doing something that's better for myself.
Yeah. Well, and also just like leads to more of what you want in your life. But like to your point earlier about the motherhood section in the book, because I can't relate to that either. She, so what I took away from that is, so you have Hank and I have Izzy, but like more that like sometimes we can be so like, okay, task oriented and like we need to do this. Or for her, she was like heading to the, I don't know what award ceremony, but something.
Shonda Rhimes, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we said her name. Sorry, go ahead.
That she was like heading to like an award ceremony and she was all decked out and like her daughters were like, come play, mom. And to me, I was like, okay, like I can see that. Like the dog sometimes like throws me the ball and like wants to play. And I'm like, I got to do this. I got to do that. I can't play. And to me, it was just more about like slowing down and making the moments of what you want your life to be, more clear. And to your point earlier, saying no, because sometimes saying no leads to better yeses because you can, by cleaning out certain things, you can do more of other things. Yeah.
And I think that's, for me, that was the most important takeaway. And that everything that we're doing there's an equal and opposite reaction. Everything you say yes to, you're also saying no to something else. And everything you say no to, you're also saying yes to something else.
Yeah. So for the people that haven't read the book yet, she starts out and she decides she's going to do this Year of Yes. And her alma mater calls and says, hey, will you do the commencement speech? And she's like, fuck. I can't say no. It's like the first thing. See, I started cussing now.
Sorry. I haven't really cussed that much. I think it's I think it's my energy.
But she's like, fuck, I can't say no. And so she like says yes, but it's like one of those where she has 6 months because it's January. So she doesn't really have to write it.
I'm just laughing because when I would start writing it the night before.
Well, that's kind of what she did. She was actually changing it. She says in the book, like on the plane right there. She read it and she's like, this is crap. I can't actually read this. This isn't motivating. So she kind of put a pause on that one, didn't even think about it. And then maybe in week 2 of January, her manager calls and says, hey, I guess it was one of the last seasons for one of her really popular shows, like Scandal or something. And
Does she do How to Get Away with Murder?
How to Get Away with Murder.
That's a good show.
Grey's and Scandal.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that she did Scandal.
Yeah. So at one time she had like 3 shows on, which is like crazy. And like not being done through like a major like ABC or anything like that. Like it's aired on ABC, but like Shonda Land is its own thing, which is kind of amazing. Take a spin of that website if you haven't. Like there's so much stuff on it. I was like, I had no idea her company was like
really? I should check it out.
Yeah. And she's apparently launching a podcast, which I will tune into because she's so dang funny. But so the second thing was Jimmy Kimmel calls, says, hey, I want Shonda on the show. And she's like, I can't do this. And he's like, her manager's like, so it's your year of yes, right? You can't say no. And she's like, you've got me, dang it. And so she basically like has to have a conversation with herself and all of her people and be like, I don't want to do it live, because that's what she was most scared of. Like she'd seen people have like awful experiences.
Have you ever been on live TV?
No, have you?
I have,
okay,
but just like local news stuff. It's not anything like that crazy. I'm not like.
But you've been on TV. I want your autograph now.
My debut on Jimmy Fallon. But Jimmy Fallon, if you're listening, I want to be on there and play a game. But anyway, his games are so fun. No. But live TV is nerve-wracking.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking. Yeah.
So, and like we've all seen how things can go sour. And so she basically asked for something that no one ever asked for. She's like, I want it to be taped. And he freaking agreed. And and so that was an interesting lesson for me is like, I know you're like this because we're like entrepreneurs and just sometimes I often say to myself, like and to friends that I think differently than most do. Like if there's a straight line, I might do like a total like swerving way to get there, but that's the best way for me. And so I just love that like she asked for it in a way that no one else had. And that's what was going to work for her.
And I think sometimes the important lesson in that is if we can get what we want if we ask. Going back to manifesting, I don't know if Shonda Rhimes would, call that manifestation, but that's an important thing in life. If you want something, you have to ask for it. And the answer that if it's the year of yes, I'm always surprised how many people say yes to the things that I ask for.
I learned that like lesson at a super young age. Like,
me too.
Like just like I remember people being like, well, why did you ask that? Like, why did you even think to ask that? I'm like, doesn't hurt.
Why would you know?
Yeah, I was like, worst case scenario, they say no.
Master of asking that stuff. Like just thinking big and asking big questions. You're the master of it. But every job I've ever had is because I asked for it.
Yeah.
There was not one job I have ever had in my entire life, all the way through my teaching career in academia, that I did not ask for. Now I had to go through the process.
Yeah.
Right. But basically, every job I was like, are you hiring? Yes. Will you hire me? Yes. You know. Every single time. Yeah,
no, you're right. I have gotten less terrified of asking for big things, but like, I sent in several emails, as I was telling you over like text, that like to big people that I was trying to get on the podcast. And
she thinks big,
but it terrified the fuck out of me. Like I was like, oh my God. But like, again, no harm. Like worst case scenario, they say no or not right now. And I think I told you, like I've come to love a not right now because it's not a hard no.
Yeah. Oh, phones are ringing.
Oh, goodness. Sorry about that.
I don't care. Anytime I've asked like a high profile person to be on my podcast, then I'm like so nervous until I get that response. And sometimes it's yes. And sometimes I haven't received a no. I've received a soft no.
There's just some like authors that like just don't like doing press events or they don't really love like the technology side of it. So I've definitely gotten some no's, but it doesn't mean that I won't try back like every quarter as well. Like I've been trying to get Dr. Oz on the show since the launch. And I love Oprah, and he's like, one step closer to Oprah. And his people very kindly say not right now. And it may really be a no, but they're so nice in how they say it. I just read it as like a not right now. What else? The other thing that I thought was so cool about this book, and numerous friends have said this to me because we did this on the book club, we have a book club every month where we focus on a book, and you can find us on Facebook and join in for that one, the next one, which is in February, and it's The Family Upstairs. But we did this book recently for one of our January picks, and everyone was saying that they felt like they were friends with Shonda afterwards. And that was how I felt. I actually read the real book, so I didn't do the audio on this.
I did audio on that one, which she read.
She did. But everyone just says like she's so like personable.
She is personable. And that was one of the things I liked the most about it too. I definitely didn't feel like she was a step removed.
No. Yeah. And I mean, just something about like, she talks about it in the book, the Wonder Woman stance. Are you a fan of Wonder Woman?
I love Wonder Woman.
I mean, I love her. But like, when you think about that stance, it's so empowering, right?
I was in someone's yoga class one time. I don't know whose it was anymore. And they had us like, they were like cueing it like yoga. They're like, heel toe your feet as wide as your yoga mat. Bring your hands to your hips. Lift your chest. And they were like, look, you're Wonder Woman. It was really good.
I feel like that might be something Lexi would have done.
I think it might have been Brittany Roy. I can't remember anymore.
I love that. But, and then we talked about it recently. So one of our common friends, Hey Kristen, did a...
Kristen Nice?
Yes.
She was just on my podcast.
I know. And she and I run together. So we do a Sunday run club. But she did a workshop recently, and we were doing like vision boards and all of that. And we were talking where was I going with that? Shit, I forgot my thought.
Wonder Woman? Kristen?
The idea lost me.
It's okay. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I hate when that happens though.
It'll come back to you.
It will. It'll come back in a little while. What else? She talks about yes, thank you in this book too.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I remember the Kristen thing now that you say that.
Yeah.
The minute we walked away.
There we go.
You're right. But yes, thank you. Like, do you do that, or are you bad at like accepting a compliment?
I'm okay. One thing that I've been working on for like a decade that I've not gotten any better at, I don't know why, is I can't say yes, thank you. I have to say things like thank you with an explanation, or like I can't just be like a yes without an explanation, or a thank you without an explanation. Like I can't just...
Same.
Like, I can't just put on my Wonder Woman stance and be like, yeah, thanks.
I know, but she was saying like, that's like what you should start doing. And so I've been really mindfully trying to do that. But it's hard to not be like when somebody's like, oh, I love your dress, to be like, I got it at Target. Like, to me, I'm proud that I got it at Target, you know?
That's actually, it's usually about clothes. I'm like, oh my God, I got this on sale, blah, 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 blah. And I have to give them 1,000 explanations, which end up being a justification on my end. And I have some hunches where this comes from in my personal life. Okay. You know, some things from childhood, some like guilt and stuff like that. You know, none of it's a secret. Long story short, I grew up in an affluent family in a relatively blue collar town in Western Maryland. And so to be affluent was a problem. And there was, even my principal in high school came up to me at lunch one day and was like, I had just gotten a brand new Volkswagen Bug. It was in the 90s. It was like the new style, you know? Oh, and it was a brand new car.
They were all popular.
I know. They just stopped making them. They're done. They're done making the Beetle.
Ever?
They're done. I didn't
realize that.
But in any case, it was a brand new car, which is a lot for a 16-year-old, but whatever. That's my family's business. It's their money. It's their business. And the principal came up to me and he was like, I cannot believe you got a brand new car. I'm a 40-year-old man. I've never had a new car. And so that sort of stuff happened all the time. And so I had to like really feel like I had to like, oh, thank you. It wasn't that expensive, you know, that sort of stuff. And so here I am decades later, not able to say, yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I get that. Yeah. But yeah, it was very powerful to me because I was like, okay, like in the one scene she said, like was when she was in an elevator, I think, and some handsome guy was like, smiled at her or something. And and I feel like I do that in the dating world where I'll be like, I'll see a hot guy and he'll like smile at me and I'll be like, I just turned purple or something. And I'm like, why do you do that, girl?
It's like those memes where it's like, try to act normal and you're like, yeah.
Which may be why I'm single, but I did love it. That and just like to me, I've been actively trying to correct that. But back to what we were talking about with Kristen was in her workshop, we were talking about like people that are the first to do things. And we were talking about like, so Shonda in the book has to speak at like a Hollywood club, I'm going to call it. It was like some kind of event, but she was talking about how like everyone has a glass ceiling and she wasn't the first to break that glass ceiling in Hollywood. It was all the people that came before her. Mm-hmm. And I think about that often because we as women have come so far, but yet have so much more room to go. And collectively, when we do put our arms around each other, like the power of that, right? Versus like trying to do everything ourselves.
I think about these things a lot. I mean, my focus in undergrad and grad school was gender studies, and in particular, feminist studies. And I sometimes worry that we forget that stuff, and that we have to really offer gratitude, to those people that came before us to break those glass ceilings, and not even just in terms of gender, just in general, whatever it is you're doing in your life.
Right. Yeah. Because we were talking about in that workshop, like that there weren't a ton of like women that were badasses in like pop culture, that a lot of them were men. And I was like, well, I can actually think of a lot of women, but but it is true, like just how much other people have done for us. But again, going back to what we learned with Jen's book of like gratitude, and there's so many parallels, like when she actually does the commencement speech for Dartmouth, the big takeaway was be a doer, not a dreamer, which again, like same theme of what Jen was talking about.
I was just thinking when you were talking that the thing is, whenever I read any of these books that are about like manifesting, living out your life's purpose, I don't know, clarity, reaching goals, the heart of the teachings are all the same. You can call it saying yes. You can call it giving gratitude. You can call it meditation. You can call it downloads from the universe. You know what I mean? You can call it whatever you want. But I think at the heart of this, most of this, it's the same lesson. It's the same teaching.
Yeah. Okay. Switching gears.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry.
What are you reading right now that you love?
Oh, what am I reading right now?
Because you're always reading 2 or 3 books.
I am. So I'm still listening to You Are a Badass at Making Money. I recently stopped listening to Girl Wash Your Face. I told you, I just like, it got into a realm of motherhood and religion that no longer connected with me.
I was like that as well.
Yeah.
And late in the book, I had to put it down.
Me too.
It was like,
me too. And then I kind
left.
of felt bad because I was, I didn't feel bad. It's not that, but like I was recommending it to people. And then when I got to these later parts, I was like, oh God, they're going to hate that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm also listening to Sean Corn's Revolution of the Soul.
Ooh.
It's very good.
Okay.
She's a very good writer. And I hate to say like, and she's just so smart. I don't want to like, because that makes me sound like I'm smart enough to judge her smartness. It's not that, but like you can tell she's well read and well educated in certain areas. And she starts the book with the poem Howl, which is really interesting and not something I've really seen many yogis do. And Howl, I mean, that went all the way to court, about obscenity and stuff. Yeah. And so she reads the poem, in the audiobook, she reads the poem, and then she's talking about her work in these like gay nightclubs in the 80s and stuff during the HIV AIDS epidemic.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very good.
But to your point earlier about like noticing other people's intelligence, like I think when somebody's just like ridiculously smart, that even comes through in a book.
For sure.
Like,
for sure.
Particularly if they're like Mensa level, like there's books where I'm like, oh my gosh, this person is brilliant. And then I actually talk to them, they're like, yeah, I mean, technically, yeah. And I'm like, oh. What that's like? I'm so not that person. Okay, what's your rule on if you don't like a book? Like, will you put it down or do you?
Oh my God, I was going to ask you the same question. That's something I wanted to ask you. Girl, I don't finish anything if I don't like it. It's not a movie, not a show, not a book. Nothing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like I have this conversation more since I started the book club podcast where everyone's like, well, you obviously finish every book. And I'm like, I've always had a rule that if I don't like it within 50 or 100 pages, like, and to the point of like, I'm reading it or I'm listening to it and I'm like, I don't remember what happened like the last 3 chapters. Like, I'll just put it down because it's my time.
Well, I just feel like if you're not enjoying anything in life, stop.
I know.
The time that you have on this earth is very limited.
Yeah.
So you should eat things you like. You should do exercise that you love. Don't read books that you hate. You know what I mean? Like, enjoy your life. You don't have to muscle through a book you hate just to muscle through it to say you did.
But it's amazing to me how many people are like, but I feel guilty. Like I started it. I have to finish it. I'm like, no guilt.
I don't have that level of guilt in my life.
But also like what you were saying about exercise. Like, so I often find that people try to do exercise for the sake of doing exercise, but haven't found the thing that they love. Yeah. And to me, like once I found those things, I was like, oh yeah, this is where I was always meant to be. Like,
are you going to yoga today?
Yes.
Me too.
I'm going to Angeles. Yes.
Oh, me too. Yes. I'll see you there. Yes. Okay. What are you listening or reading to right now?
So I'm always reading 1,000 things, but I just recently read The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell, which to me was like the definition of a page turner. I literally couldn't put it down and finished it in like 48 hours. And oh, by the way, I'm not actually a fast reader. It's just if I find a book I love, I can be a fast reader.
I'm not a fast reader either, or a fast writer. Everyone all the time, because I have a literature degree and I teach writing, they're like, you must read and write so fast. You'd be surprised how slow I am. It's really slow.
I know, all my friends all my New York girlfriends are like, you read so fast. I'm like, I just post quickly about what I've read recently. I also read Lori Gottlieb's book, which I'm giving you. Maybe you should talk to someone. And that is about, Lori is a psychotherapist, and she walks you through the lives and therapy of 5 of her patients, or quote unquote similar patients to who she had, and herself. And what I love about that book is, whether you love therapy or wonder what it's all about, it just humanizes us all. Like, we're all dealing with the same things. And that's, I think, one of the first things I learned in yoga is, like, it's amazing to me when you're in a yoga class, how you as a teacher can say something and all of us are like, oh, and it's like whatever's going on in our lives, we all can relate. And then I just started Woman on the Edge by Samantha Bailey. And that's another page turner. Her and I met last October, and she's coming on the show next month, because her book launches in the US sometime next month. But that one I'm just loving. And it's like, I'm like, every time I'm reading a chapter, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to stop after this. And then it gets to the last sentence. I'm like, fuck, I have to keep going, which is a good thing. But that's when you end up like up late reading, and you're like, I had no plans to be up this late.
You know what I do read this time of year? I just told you this, but I can't remember if we were recording or not. I like to read murder mysteries.
You said that before we started.
It was before recording. And they're not good. It's not like, they're not award-winning mysteries. They're just mysteries, and they keep my attention.
And do you like super scary? So like Angela loves super scary.
She does like super scary. A few years ago when the new It came out, I started reading It. It's too damn long. No, I like Stephen King. Stephen King's a really good writer. I don't know if there's many writers who can pump out books like he can, and they're like consistently very good. I didn't finish it though, but I don't remember it really scaring me that much. But I really like true crime.
Right.
You know, it's
because you listen to a lot of those podcasts, right?
Yeah, girl. I love true crime. Now I cannot think of the name of the book, and it's very popular. It's about the Chicago World Fair and the guy who built the murder house.
Oh, I haven't heard of this.
Oh my God. I can't think of what it's called right now. We're going to put it in the show notes. So you guys can see it in the show notes. And I'm sure everyone out there, I can see the cover right now. Everyone listening is like, it's called this. And I just can't think of it right now. But it's a very good book, because it's like, it kind of feels like fiction because it's so fucked up, but it's real. It's really good. So long story short, during the World's Fair, this crazy dude found that as a great opportunity to build a hotel and like / apartment building or whatever. And there were so many people in and out because it was in Chicago World's Fair. And no one was really noticing that all these people weren't returning, and he was killing them. And he built this like murder house. It's really good. And so I like those sort of things because it feels like fiction, but it's actually real. No,
I was just reading one that I loved. It's like, I gave it a 5-star, but it was a little bit too scary for me before bed, and I live with myself, and I have a dog, but I was like, I can't read this the hour before bed. I'll never go to sleep.
No. Oh wait, we didn't do your rating. So would you give Year of Yes how many stars?
5.
I'm going to say 4.
Okay.
I didn't hate it. It's not that. And I actually liked it a lot. I just felt like I started to get disconnected.
Yeah. No, that happens to me. And I was the same way with Girl Wash Your Face. Everyone had raved about all of her
people
books.
Like lose their minds over that book.
I just can't relate, but
I like her. Actually, I like her way of writing. I like her way of talking. She narrated the audiobook and it was very good. But at certain points, I was like, all right, you and I are like on different levels of life right now.
No, but I loved her like entrepreneur story.
Me too.
Which was, to me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I did love both of these books, and I'm excited to do more of these. We were talking before we got on the show, though, how like everyone is always talking about books and loves books. And I find that's one of the reasons I started the podcast is it's a common denominator.
Yeah, it is.
Whether you read, only at the airport or 4 books a month, everyone reads to some degree, I would say. And, you know, just like exercise, it's like, it's, you know, all about finding the genre that you like best. And, you know, the cool thing is, like, for me with this podcast, I've really been exposed to authors and genres that I might not normally read. So like I might have said before starting the podcast that I was not a huge fan of historical fiction.
Oh, I like historical fiction.
But like I just read Patty Callahan's Becoming Mrs. Lewis, which is the most epic love story ever.
Have you read Loving Frank?
I haven't.
Oh, it's so good about Frank Lloyd Wright.
Ooh.
Oh, it's so good. I'm a little bit of a Frank Lloyd Wright nerd. I really like his architecture. I've been to a number of his places, like nerd alert, y'all. But in any case, the historical fiction book, Loving Frank, is very good. And there's this part toward the end, which I guess I won't tell because it's a spoiler alert, that I thought was part of the fiction because it was just so horrifying. It was real.
Yeah.
You know, that's the weird thing about historical fiction, though, is I'm like, wait, what's real?
I know.
What's not?
It is
you know,
yeah. No, Becoming Mrs. Lewis is the story of C.S. Lewis, which you might like, and his love story with his ultimately wife, Joy Davidman. But same thing, I was like, and it was like in New York and London and Oxford. And I always love like when they're abroad because, I don't know, there's a piece of me that it touches my wanderlust soul. What podcast do you listen to besides your own?
Well, I never listen to my own. I listen to it to edit.
To edit.
The last thing I want to do is hear more of my own voice. Jesus, you know. But other than Dharma Drops, which everyone should listen to, I really love My Favorite Murder. So, My Favorite Murder, it's a true crime comedy podcast for those of you who haven't listened, but many of you maybe have heard of it. It is one of the top podcasts in the world. They have 34 million downloads a month. A month.
Manifest that shit.
I know. 34. They just scored a huge deal with Stitcher for advertising. It's the biggest podcasting advertising deal. It's huge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I really like them. I've also
podcast goals.
Podcast goals. I also really like the podcast, and just hear me out. It's called The Dream. And season 1, just wait. It's about multi-level marketing, which sounds really boring, which everyone's like, that sounds lame. No, it's so good because it's really talking about how these multi-level marketing industries like doTERRA and Young Living and LuLaRoe and all these companies, I'm not trying to dog them necessarily, but the evidence shows that they prey on women. They prey on housewives. They put people in major debt. They might have good products, right? But the overarching outcome for most people is debt. And it's and so it debunks a lot of these things that go along with multi-level marketing, and very interestingly talks about the role of the federal government within multi-level marketing. Because my
mouth is wide open.
Okay, so I can't remember his name anymore. What's the woman's name for the head of the Department of Education? DeVos.
Okay.
Her father-in-law worked for I can't remember his role, but he worked for the federal government, but he was also the founder of Amway.
Oh, I would have never known that.
So there's these like,
interesting
there's a reason why there's like a lot of, a lack of rules and laws in multi-level marketing. Then season 2 is very interestingly about the wellness industry, debunking essential oils, crystal healing, yoga, not debunking all of it. Right. But like really looking at this sort of like cult following of stuff. It's so good, Katie. You have to listen.
Okay. I feel like, you had me at marketing, so I'm a total geek. Well, I'm still a sucker for Oprah's Super Soul Sunday.
I haven't listened to that, but people love it.
I love anything Oprah, as I said earlier, but, and she hasn't had like her normal type of guests, but, recently, because she's been on that WW tour, so she's had more people from that. I also listened to Why Not Now by Amy Jo Martin.
I haven't listened to that one.
So I actually know Amy from my digital marketing career, and she started her podcast maybe 3 years ago. But it is funny. Like I remember listening to one, and I'm going to blank on who the guest was, but it was somebody like, it was a bigwig, and I was listening to it, and she was like, she said in the intro, she was like, this is a pinch me moment. And, it just shows the point too of like, no matter what you're doing, we all, as we talk about manifesting and being a doer versus a dreamer, we've got to celebrate the wins, right?
Yeah.
And I think we can get so like complacent of like, oh my God, it happened, and then just move on, right? Like I got to do X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big believer in like stopping and going and getting that bottle of champagne, or going to a nice dinner or something like that, and actually taking the time to celebrate, because we work hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Those are two of my favorites. Are we done?
Maybe. Do you feel done?
We can be, but y'all are going to hear us coming back at you soon again. We're going to do a few more of these as we go into spring and potentially spring break and summer.
Yeah, because everyone wants to talk about books. What we're reading is changing all the time. So maybe we should tell listeners out there, if there's books that you think we should talk about, you should let us know.
Same. That's exactly where I was going in my head. So as we post this, if y'all want to give us suggestions on books, and we'll stick with the same thing of like intentional living, yogic books, ones that are super motivating. Give us some ideas. We'd love to hear what you're reading and liking, and then we can kind of figure out what we'll want to talk about. We'll probably do 2 next time as well, right?
Yeah, I think so. We can do whatever we want. That's my motto. Do whatever I want, within reason.
Becky's taught me this. It's your podcast. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
She asked me a question. I was like, it's your show. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do. I think in some ways I do. That's one area where I excel. I just do what I want. If you don't like my podcast, I'm not offended. Just listen to someone else's, because I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. You know?
I know. When people are like, you say too much, I'm like, it's never going to change.
Girl, do you know how much I say like, and then I edit. I just said it, and I'm like, I edit just so many times. It's because I grew up in the 90s. I'm like, but.
Speaking of which, what was that commercial you did recently where you were like,
with Danny from Spiritual Junkies. Oh my God, Becky, where did you get those bracelets?
I was like,
so silly.
Seriously, she couldn't have done any better at that commercial. But back to the point, because we got off track. If the listeners want to give us some ideas on books, I would love to see what you're reading or what you love. Even when we were at the yoga studio, like everyone was like, wait a minute, y'all are doing a podcast together? And then they were all like chiming in on books. And I was like, this is my dream. I love when people talk about books.
If you had to talk, we're not going to do it because, time is going here. But if you had to talk about one book right now, what would it be?
One book right now. Well, we already talked about Shonda Rhimes' Year of Yes, but I also love Abby Wambach's Wolfpack.
I haven't read that, but I've heard it's good.
And it's kind of like Girl Wash Your Face, where it's a handbook. So you really, it's super short. Like you can read that book in an hour. But I had no idea of just the details behind Abby's career as a soccer player, but she has so many great life lessons. I think as I'm in more like January, February mode, I'm leaning towards books that motivate me too. And both Year of Yes and Wolfpack are books that I actually read at least twice a year because they motivate me that much. Do you have books you read like?
There is one book. It's not super motivating in terms of like my soul, but when I feel that things like my diet and my exercise are out of whack and I don't know how to bring it back, I always go back to Alicia Silverstone's The Kind Diet. I have read that. I'm not vegan. It's a vegan book. Okay. And I'm not vegan. I'm not even vegetarian. Everyone thinks that all yogis are vegan, vegetarian. I'm not either of them. But it's always a really good reminder about ways that I can be more mindful about what I eat and how that affects the world. Okay. It's a good one.
And what's your book? One book that you're loving or have loved? Is it this Alicia Silverstone?
Well, that's the one that I go to the most. I was actually wondering, like, if I had to pick my favorite book, what would it be? And one of the problems with the masters in literature is you develop a critical eye. Oh, yeah. And you can't enjoy anything anymore. So I'm trying to think of the book that had the most impact on me. And the first thing that comes to mind, and I can't even tell you why, but Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Are Watching God was a really big one for me in just like understanding the power of literature, life in the South, African-American writing, which was like something kind of new to me as like a white woman that grew up in Western Maryland. You know what I mean? So that was like the first one that popped into my brain.
So when you read books, like, are you hypercritical if there's like typos or grammatical errors?
Oh, no, I don't give a shit about that.
Okay. Well, I didn't know what the literature degree, like if that was like, if you like zoned in on that more so.
No. It's more analysis, of like, I guess the easiest way to explain it, like the deeper, the subtext.
Got it.
In the book. Yeah.
Okay. Like the subconscious of it. Yeah. Okay. There was another question that came to mind. I forgot what it was. Okay. Tell us more about what's going on with Dharma Drops.
Dharma D. So Dharma Drops is going through a rebranding, which I'm really excited about.
For the 1 year anniversary. Hello. On Saturday, right?
Saturday, February 1st is the 1 year anniversary. So like you said earlier, it's like a lifestyle brand, but it's mostly a yoga-ish lifestyle. But I do all sorts of fun stuff on there to help us think about ways we can live more intentionally in our lives. I have card readings once a week, which is not as woo-woo as it sounds, I promise. The cards are really cool and it's an accessible format. I do some blogs. I have podcasts every other Friday that come out consistently. I never miss a Friday. You can always catch them. I have some new offerings coming up in February. I'm doing a moon reflections month long. It's not a workshop. It's more like an event. So long story short, you'll get a moon study journal, videos about the moon phases. And then I'm in a graduate educational leadership program. I don't know if you know that. At UNC Wilmington. And one of the things that the program specializes in is a process called self-mentoring. So I'll be sort of repackaging the self-mentoring process so people can really lead themselves through their own life intentions, but also reconnecting with the moon, which I know sounds woo-woo, but connecting to the moon is a really easy way for us to see how like the patterns and the cycles of our lives come around over and over and over. Not every 10 years, not every 20 years, every freaking day.
Yeah. Well, and living at the beach, I've noticed it like so much more than when I lived anywhere else. You also have a shop on Dharma Drops.
I do. I've got girl. I feel like you should be like my brand ambassador.
I can do PR. You know that, right?
You've been listening to my bracelets clanging. Sorry. Yeah, I have a shop. So there's mala bracelets, there's mala necklaces, there's journals, a few books. I kind of scaled back on my offerings because I have some hopefully in 2020 some new things that I'll be creating, to sell, which will be kind of fun. But if you're interested in anything over at Dharma Drops, you can just head over to dharmadropspodcast.com and everything is on there. And you can also follow on Instagram at Dharma Drops Podcast.
Yeah. And it's just amazing. Like I've watched you like literally grow this from like first day.
Thank you.
It's so fun just to see like how much it's evolved, quite frankly.
Thank you. And so can you tell the Dharma Drops community what's going on in your world?
Yeah, so we're in season 2. We ended up
How long are your seasons?
So I pretty much am going to do fall, spring, and then summer, abbreviated summer. And I'm debating how much I'm going to put into summer because I kind of want to just enjoy this summer. Have you done some? You did summer last year. Did you do full summer?
I don't do seasons. I do every other Friday.
No matter.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had 23 episodes, or chapters as I call them, in the first season. We kicked off this season really fun with Lisa Jewell and Sasha Sagan. And the lineup for this spring is just amazing. I am accepting advertisers, as I know you are.
Oh yeah, girl! I need you to like promote my business. I forgot. I am accepting advertisers,
and you're accepting writers too.
I forgot. And I'm paying. That's a big thing. I'm actually paying writers now.
So some of you book people might be writers.
Yeah,
Becky's hiring.
Sorry
for her blog, but yeah. And, so that's the cool thing is like, year 1 or season 1 was really about just putting out the best content for me. And, I'm really kind of continuing with that, bringing in high caliber authors, but also really excited about bringing in some advertisers and open to anything, see what comes my way and we'll see what the universe delivers. But honestly, I'm just having so much fun with this. I mean, I love reading and it's so funny, like different friends locally were like, oh my gosh, you've been talking about books like forever. Anyways, this is like such a natural for you. And to call it work, I'm like, best life ever.
Yeah, for sure. And you do a book club virtually, right?
Yes.
So if the Dharma Drops listeners or some new listeners for you want to join, how can they do that?
Yes. If you just go to Facebook and look up Just One More Chapter podcast and go under our events tab, we have a virtual book club every month. It's normally like the 3rd or 4th Tuesday of the month. And we hone in on one book, but it's really cool. We do it via Zoom. So you can be anywhere. So we had one last week or the week before, and the like we're all in different states and cool. And like we don't have it internationally yet, but we bring wine. You can come in your pajamas.
See, now you're talking my language. Alcohol and pajamas.
One of the girls brought her new little puppy that's like 13 weeks old, and I was like, I can't do this part where I can't touch the puppy. But so it's super fun, and we basically talk about one specific book each month, and then we talk about what we're recently reading or what we love. And it's just lots of laughter, which is at the core of everything that I want to do. And then we do have a special event. So Dean Koontz is coming back on the show for the second time.
Girl.
Girl, he actually said he was coming back before we even did the first interview. So I take that as like a huge compliment.
Yeah.
But he has a new book coming out called Devoted in April. And we are doing a special book club chat with him one evening. And so if you look on our events tab on our website, justonemorecapterpodcast.com, you can put your name in to participate in that. And
that's so awesome.
And he's so fun. Like, I loved interviewing him. At the end, he goes, Katie, you asked really good questions. I'm like, holy shit, I'm doing this right.
I think one of the things I like about both of our shows is there's a really nice mix of high profile people. And I don't want to say low profile. It's not that, but it's been really important for me in the journey of Dharma Drops to recognize, not to recognize, but to showcase that everybody has something to offer. And you don't have to be the world's best author or the world's #1 yoga teacher to have really important things to say.
Yeah, no, I've said it from the get-go. It's actually in my podcast intro that like, we'll talk about books you've never heard of. And I don't mean that like that no one's ever heard of them, but one of the things I've always loved about reading is when I can find that gem that no one's heard of. And then 2 years later, people will be like, I love that book.
Yeah.
Like, I read that 3 years ago, y'all. But yeah, both of our podcasts are very real and we're doing amazing things. Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you so
excited
much.
and proud of you.
Thank you.
It's been amazing to watch and just to, it inspired me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If anyone out there listening wants to join the mailing list, you can go to dharmadropspodcast.com/join the list and follow on Instagram because I'll be doing a month-long celebration of giveaways, promos, all sorts of stuff. All month long. Oh, yeah, girl, it's a party.
I love how you think. This has been so much fun.
Yes.
I'm excited for our next round. And again, for listeners, please put on Facebook any books that you'd like for us to talk about because we'll consider it. Anywho, thanks.
Bye y'all. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Dharma Drops. Just as a reminder, for as little as $2 a month, you can get exclusive podcasts, swag, merch, yoga classes, meditations, and more by becoming a supporter on Patreon. Just head over to patreon.com/Dharma Drops. As always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Dharma Drops podcast on whatever app you're listening on. It's a great way to show your support as well as a great way to share the podcast with others. And to see all of the Dharma Drops offerings, including the weekly card readings, the shop, and more, just head over to dharmadropspodcast.com. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. Bye.